Something inside me and I'm sharing it. I'm just cruising for clarity with a therapist. Hey, let me roll down the window. Hosted by Francisco Castillo. Hey, yeah, you deserve to be heard. Explore what you feel, no stress or concern. Hey, something inside me and I'm sharing it. I'm just cruising for clarity with a therapist. Let's go.
Welcome back to Cruisin for Clarity with a Therapist. I'm your host, Francisco Castillo, and I'm really glad you've decided to join us today. Have you ever found yourself deep in thought, going over a conversation that never actually took place? You know the one I mean? Where you imagine someone finally admitting to their mistakes and then taking responsibility for their actions. You're not asking for a grand gesture or anything extravagant. Just a bit of honesty would do the trick. Something simple like, hey, I know I hurt you, and I'm sorry. But here's the kicker. It never happens, does it? And if you're honest with yourself, there's that little voice inside acknowledging it probably never will happen. Despite this awareness, there's still a part of you clinging onto it. The hurt feelings, the deafening silence, that unfinished business lingering in your mind. Today's episode is all about tackling what comes next. Moving forward even when that elusive apology doesn't materialize. We'll explore what it looks like to stop waiting on others to make things right and instead find peace within ourselves on our own terms. If you've ever felt trapped in that cycle, waiting endlessly, replaying old scenes in your mind like a broken record, wondering why things went down the way they did, this episode is especially for you. So let's dive into this topic together and see how we can navigate these tricky waters toward healing and clarity. You know that feeling when you're eagerly waiting for someone to step up and take responsibility for what they did? You imagine the scene in your head. Maybe they muster the courage to apologize. Maybe they offer some kind of explanation that finally makes sense of everything. Perhaps they say something that gives you the peace you've been longing for, allowing you to finally let go. That's exactly what we've been led to believe closure should look like. It's supposed to be this perfect moment wrapped neatly with a bow on top, as if you could walk away from it all feeling lighter, with everything magically falling into place. But let's face it, life rarely works out so neatly. Most of the time, that ideal conversation never even happens. In reality, sometimes there is no dialogue at all. Sometimes the person who caused you pain simply vanishes as though they were never part of your life at all. No heartfelt apology comes your way. No one takes accountability for their actions. Instead, you're left with nothing but silence. And honestly, you may never receive that long-awaited apology or any answers at all. Waiting around for those things can feel like you've hit pause on your own life, hoping desperately that they're the ones who will eventually press play again. Here's where things get tough. When we talk about wanting closure, what we're truly craving isn't necessarily a neat ending tied with a pretty bow. It's validation, pure and simple. It's having someone acknowledge, yes, that happened to you. You want reassurance that your experience was real, that what you felt was justified, and not just some figment of imagination spun within your mind. But when the person responsible refuses ownership, denying or even pretending none of it ever occurred, it can really mess with your headspace big time. Suddenly doubts creep in, memories become hazy, self-blame sneaks its way into daily thoughts, until eventually carrying all this emotional weight alone becomes second nature. And yeah, that part definitely sucks. Yet here's an empowering twist. Closure doesn't always have roots in another person's actions, or lack thereof. Sometimes true resolution grows from within yourself, in those tiny moments where new understandings blossom over time. When finally realizing they're never going to bring peace anyway, allows us freedom instead by choosing to not wait any longer ourselves. So, if it's not really about the apology, what are we actually looking for? Most of the time, it's something deeper. We just want to feel like we mattered in the grand scheme of things. We need reassurance that what happened wasn't okay, and that we're not overreacting by still thinking about it long after it occurred. What we truly crave is to be seen, not just in our shining moments, but especially in the ones that hurt us the most. It's less about them saying all the perfect words and more about them admitting, I see what I did. It's about feeling confident that we weren't invisible and that our pain was acknowledged. When acknowledgement never comes, particularly from the person who caused the hurt, it does more than damage a relationship. It starts to mess with how you view yourself on a fundamental level. You start questioning everything. Was I too much? Did I make it up? Was it really as deep as I thought? This lack of acknowledgement can lead you down a path where you begin shrinking yourself, adjusting your thoughts to make their silence seem reasonable. But here's some real talk. You don't actually need their words to validate your experience or make it any more real than it already is. You know exactly what happened. You felt every bit of how it impacted you. And here's where your power lies. You're allowed to acknowledge that it hurt, that it mattered deeply, and you're completely justified in deciding not to carry the burden anymore. Not all at once. It can be a gradual process. But in small moments when you're replaying events in your mind, instead of blaming yourself, simply affirm, that wasn't okay, and I didn't deserve any of that. And maybe later on, you'll find yourself saying, and despite everything, I still get to move forward with my head held high. Here's the part that nobody really wants to face. Even if they apologized, even if they looked you straight in the eyes and said every single word you've been longing to hear, it still might not magically fix everything you're hoping it will. An apology, no matter how sincere, doesn't have the power to erase what happened. It can't unsay hurtful words that were spoken or restore you to the person you were before all the pain settled in. We often fantasize that if only they'd acknowledge their mistakes, we'd feel this immense weight lift off our shoulders. We imagine Yinyane would finally set us free, from all those pent-up emotions. But deep down, what we're truly yearning for isn't just a simple, I'm sorry. It's something much deeper. We're seeking genuine repair and care, a real sense of presence and understanding. Sadly, more often than not, people who couldn't be there for you back then are unlikely to be able to show up for you now. That's not to say people are incapable of change. Humans evolve over time. However, pinning your hopes on someone else's personal growth as your ticket back to feeling okay, that's a surefire way to keep yourself feeling stuck and stagnant. So maybe it's time to stop wishing they'll finally get it and start focusing on something within your control. Getting clear with yourself about what you need and being honest with where you're at emotionally. It's about redirecting your focus back onto yourself, where it should have always been. Because that part of you that still feels an echo of hurt, it's not sitting around waiting for them anymore. It's been patiently waiting for you all along to choose healing and take charge of your own journey forward. So if you're not getting the apology, then what's next? How do you stop lugging around this heavy emotional baggage when no one's stepping in to help you set it down? Look, I'm not about to hand you a neat little 5-step plan. Life just doesn't work that way. But here's something real I can offer. Peace often begins with honesty, not necessarily with others, but with yourself. It starts by acknowledging your own feelings. Even if it's tough, it might sound like, that really did hurt. I didn't get what I needed back then. And I've been holding onto that pain for much too long. Once you've done that, it's about gradually finding ways to ease the burden on your own terms. Maybe that means writing a letter you'll never send, pouring out everything you wanted them to hear. Or perhaps it's speaking aloud the words you wish they had said to release them from the confines of silence in your mind. Sometimes sharing your story with someone who genuinely listens can be incredibly freeing. It could also mean setting boundaries within your own thoughts, telling yourself, I'm done replaying stories that won't change. Peace isn't always a dramatic epiphany or breakthrough moment. Often it's simply deciding to stop seeking clarity from someone who never offered honesty in the first place. It's about shifting focus from why did they do that to what do I need now? And let's be real. Some days it will still sting. Those memories and feelings may still resurface occasionally. And that's okay, because healing isn't linear or instant. But if you start approaching these moments with sincerity and maybe just a touch of self-compassion, you'll begin feeling lighter over time. Not all at once, but bit by bit. This newfound peace won't come because an apology finally arrived at your doorstep. Rather, it'll emerge because you've stopped tying your sense of peace and well-being to someone else's growth journey or lack thereof. So let's take a moment to just breathe and reflect. We've been diving into what it feels like to be caught in that uncomfortable silence, waiting for words that may never arrive from people who, for whatever reason, might not be ready or willing to say them. It's a tough place to be, and I just want to reaffirm this. Wanting an apology isn't wrong. It's perfectly normal to seek closure and yearn for some kind of resolution. That longing is inherently human. It's part of our nature to desire understanding and acknowledgement. But here's the thing, you don't have to hold your breath indefinitely, waiting on someone else to make things clear or provide the explanation you're hoping for. You have the power within you to identify what happened, articulate your own version of events, and embrace your personal truth. Take care of that part of yourself that still knots up when memories surface. Acknowledge it, but don't let it control you. As you navigate these emotions, start giving yourself the clarity they couldn't offer you. Do this slowly but surely, one honest moment at a time, one deep breath at a time. And remember that even when those feelings of heaviness return, because they likely will, remind yourself, I don't need their words to trust my own. You are worthy of peace, a kind of tranquility that doesn't hinge on someone else's admission or apology. Thanks for spending this time with me today. I appreciate your presence here. Stay connected with your journey towards clarity and keep moving forward at your own pace.
Stay tuned in, I hope you're coming back. A place you can grow, vibe out and relax. Time to get clarity, time to find joy. Find your inner self, discover and explore. Ayy, yeah, cruising for clarity with a therapist.